Hello, everyone. Welcome again to More Layers. I'm Seth Mariano.
And I'm Jordan Smith, and we wanted to take at least the beginning of this episode to briefly explain what's been going on over the past couple of weeks. Because if you were here 2 weeks ago, we had talked about how the following week, which was last week, we were going to continue our little Arthur miniseries by starting season 2, and then at the end, we were going to share with all of you what our annual theatrical production was. Because the annual cast reunion where that happens was scheduled to be a couple days before. We say that with that specific wording because about a day or two before the reunion was supposed to happen, they announced that they didn't have everything they needed to officially confirm what show they were doing. As a result, it has been postponed until the middle of next month, so right now we still don't know what the show is. And the reason why we didn't have an episode in general last week is because Seth here was out of town.
Yeah, I actually spent a few days last week during my week off from work in Philadelphia specifically. And yeah, it was a pretty good time. Saw some pretty cool stuff. I wanted to go to the Eagles Pro Shop because Jordan here is an Eagles fan, but apparently they have it closed for the World Cup right now. But
oh, do they?
Yeah, they do. Yeah,
oh.
Because the World Cup is taking place in Mexico, U.S., and Canada, and yeah, I looked on the website because I figured I wanted to maybe see if I could maybe find something to bring home for Jordan, but yeah, I guess I picked a bad time.
Well, it's definitely appreciated, and as it's often said, it's the thought that counts. So the fact that you tried means a lot to me.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, next time maybe I'll maybe look into it.
Sure. But as we were originally thinking last week, we are now going to start this episode by starting season 2 of our miniseries of Arthur.
Yeah, and today we are diving into the second season of the series, which actually starts on, I guess you could say, a big bang, because the first story that aired in this season was perhaps one of the most famous ones, with one of the most remembered guest stars. A little story titled Arthur Meets Mr. Rogers, guest starring Fred Rogers of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood fame as himself.
Yeah, we talked a little bit when going through season 1 how the show in general, not just the first season, got some surprisingly big names to show up every once in a while. And we did mention that Fred Rogers was one of them.
Yeah.
And of course, this taking place in a world of anthropomorphic animals, he himself is like an animal version of Mr. Rogers, voiced by the same guy. And the story goes that he is actually staying with Arthur briefly, but he doesn't want to let that on to his classmates because he thinks they're going to make fun of him.
Right.
Which is further exemplified by, for example, I think Binky jokingly sings the theme song.
Right, he does mockingly sing it a little bit.
But then once he's actually face-to-face with the guy, he suddenly switches tone and goes, "Can I have your autograph?"
Right, yeah. Yeah, this definitely delves more into a recurring running gag on the show, Arthur's anxiety about being seen as immature or a baby or whatever. And his peers seem to think, the whole Mr. Rogers thing is, below their age, and so he doesn't want to be in an uncomfortable situation or whatever, and so he's trying to hide the fact from everybody that he personally knows him and he's a guest in their home.
Yeah, this kind of goes into a similar episode later, I forget which season it's in, where his teacher stays with him because his roof caved in or something to that effect.
Yeah.
And while it's well known, instead of being made fun of, everybody starts getting angry with him because they suddenly think that Mr. Ratburn is treating him better because he's staying at his house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Arthur's worried that things are going to go awry, like he's going to constantly have homework thrown at him even when he's just at home.
Yeah.
But then he finds out that when he's not teaching, he's a really chill guy. But with this episode in particular, they all meet Mr. Rogers, they love the guy, and Arthur finds out he doesn't really have anything to worry about, if I remember right.
Yeah, he pretty much, overcomes the anxiety.
Which happens a lot, because, as it's made apparent, he's a kid, he's in third grade, he has a wild imagination, and oftentimes when they're that young, your imagination blows things out of proportion.
Right.
And he will often have an episode where something like that will take place.
Yeah. But interestingly, even before everyone meets Mr. Rogers and Arthur gets over the anxiety, Buster sees Mr. Rogers with Arthur and DW and kind of goes over to the Reed's house for dinner, and he's like super enthusiastic and engaging with Mr. Rogers, like asking him, does King Friday come on the trolley to see you and all that stuff. He's like super fanboy.
I love that particular scene because it kind of, I don't know if this was Buster's intention necessarily, but it kind of comes across to me as a way to kind of help Arthur see, hey, other people knowing that he's at his house isn't that bad. If anything, it's a positive thing, and now he sees Buster engaging with this guy, showing how big of a fan he is. And as we mentioned Binky earlier, when he actually does meet the guy, he shows that, he's a fan in some capacity too.
Yeah, I never really thought of that, being a coping strategy he was giving Arthur or anything, but it's just pretty cool to see, though.
For sure. And then we go from a popular, very lighthearted episode to one that often is seen as more mean-spirited.
Mm-hmm.
Simply called Draw. Now, normally when you hear somebody just say that word, you think of a Western where two people are having a standoff or something like that.
Or Woody saying to Etch, draw.
Yeah, that's basically it. They're kind of doing a Western standoff shootout type thing. But in this episode, what's going on is people are not very thrilled with how Francine is acting towards them. So as not necessarily a form of retaliation, they start making cartoons or these comics that are very, very clearly portraying a character that's based on her as this nasty slime antagonist thing.
There are a bunch of comics that they do, there's one a cow, a foghorn, bunch of different things.
Oh, that's right. The slime one I definitely remember most, but there were definitely a few, because I think what happens later is they go to this sort of fair type thing.
Yeah, the Teachers' Charity Carnival. Yeah.
Yep. And one of the more respected characters in the show, Mrs. McGrady, I think is her name.
Yep.
She acts as a fortune teller.
Yeah.
And they have this plan set up where they're supposedly going to embarrass Francine when she goes in there and supposedly has her fortune read.
Yeah.
They're supposed to drop this slime of sorts on her when she gives them a specific signal, but after she lists off all these things that they were portraying her as, she's like, I know I shouldn't have been this way, but why is everyone being so mean to me?
Yeah.
And what's really nice about this is that there is a twist in this where they think they're about to embarrass her, but after Arthur says, maybe you shouldn't drop that on someone, it could hurt their feelings, she plays along with it for a second by saying, yeah, I guess I learned something. But then it shows her going back in, pulling the string herself to reveal that there was no slime in there. It was more like confetti.
And balloons, yeah, or something.
So she had a plan in place, knowing what their original intention was to turn it around into something good.
Yeah. It's probably one of those, this is probably one of the more conflicting episodes because I think over the series up to this point, viewers have come to know Francine as this pretty abrasive, very, very condescending young person. And that is kind of what triggers the whole thing in the first place. At least Francine being like super condescending, specifically toward Fern for affirming Mr. Ratburn's puppet work. And even when she clearly shows how much that upsets her, Francine is oblivious to this and thinks it's no big deal at all. And then people, perhaps out of revenge, start satirizing her in these cartoons.
This is one of those episodes where pretty much everybody, at least in the main cast, is somehow in the wrong.
Yeah.
Like, of course, Francine was wrong for what she did, but their response wasn't appropriate either.
Sure.
So they all kind of learned something from that, and Mrs. McGrady was involved, even though, even by the end of the episode, they didn't know. Because by the time she opens the confetti ball, no one else was around. But by that point, they all realized what they did was wrong, and they, of course, made up as friends.
Yeah, and it's similar in a way how it resolves to, we earlier talked about Arthur, World's Greatest Gleeper, and how Mrs. McGrady kind of had an idea of what was going on, and she pretty much kind of played along, kind of instead of just preaching at them, telling them, how they're in the wrong, she kind of creatively directed them to think that way.
Yeah, she is a very well-written character, I think. It's one of those examples of when people say you should respect your elders, because she often teaches lessons in ways you wouldn't expect. She's very likable by a lot of the people in the class and whatnot, which, when it gets to the episode in the future where she is diagnosed with cancer, which is another example of this show tackling something serious, it hits because of how much these people care about her.
Yeah. And then the season continues with Binky Barnes, Art Expert, which follows Arthur, Buster, and Binky working together on a team project about art.
Specifically, they're writing a report on art from, I think it's their local museum.
Yeah.
And this is another one of those episodes, and there will be more that we talk about in a bit, that shows that the bully persona that Binky puts on is more of a facade than anything else. Because, yeah, he is a visibly tough guy, but under the surface, he loves dancing, he loves art, he does all these things that he doesn't want to let on right away because he doesn't want to come across as a big softie.
Yeah, it's more or less of a shield.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. There are people in real life who will hide behind this tough persona in fear that they'll be made fun of if all these secrets are let out.
Yeah.
But so when they're first put together with Binky, they think we're in trouble. So they have him do his own thing while they work on something different.
Yeah, kind of split the team up a little bit, sneakily.
Which is understandable in some cases in a weird way, because I've had group projects that go awry because of one person, but that's after we already know that, for example, they're not doing their fair share of the work or something to that effect. Now, because they know Binky is, at least on the outside, a tough person, like, it's understandable to be nervous, but full-on splitting from them is not the best option either. What they could have done is go to a public place like their library or the Sugar Bowl, which isn't a common hangout for these characters. But yeah, I don't remember exactly how this episode is resolved.
Yeah, well, the whole conflict arises when Binky points an issue with the way the painting is positioned in the museum. But the other two assume, like, he doesn't know what he's talking about, and they don't want to confront him or whatever, but they later found out he was right all along. He did his research and everything about it, and so turned out he was right.
And I'm not necessarily saying that Binky is autistic, but the reason I say that it could be possible is because I know a few people who are, that will notice some of the finest details that other people would glance right over. So the fact that he was able to notice that a specific painting was not positioned correctly is incredible. And whether or not he is, I don't think it's ever explored, but if he was, that'd be cool.
Yeah. It's pretty bold, too. It would be like somebody openly criticizing, like, a preacher's interpretation of a sermon, which there's a right and wrong way to do that, but a lot of people, especially if they're in a church, at least people in a church will not be brave enough to do that.
Oh yeah, a lot of people are very skittish when it comes to questioning something provided by a higher position or a higher authority.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to be antagonized.
No.
They're worried what would happen if they say that and then they're proven wrong.
Yeah.
But it is a bold move to pull something like that off. And Binky here not only did that, but he had a reason to. Because like you said, he did the research. So yes, he knew what he was talking about.
Yeah.
And that's honestly a good move to make. If you're going to make a really bold statement, you usually want to have some sort of foothold or some way to prove what you're saying.
Oh, yeah. Hearsay alone isn't enough.
No, unfortunately, that often does sway things, but it definitely shouldn't.
Yeah.
But then we get to Season 2, Episode 2, Arthur's Lucky Pencil. And I don't know about you, but the first thing I hear of, or think of, anytime I hear that title, is the quote-unquote magic pencil from SpongeBob.
No, I don't, but yeah, I guess some would argue it has a similar power, but no, I haven't really thought of that connection in my life.
Well, it's probably just because of the whole thing with the episode focusing on a pencil. But in any case, in here, Arthur has a particular pencil that seems to really help him become much more fortunate, a much luckier person, as it were. Which is a very superstitious thing, like there's lucky rabbit's foot and all these other different things that people associate with luck. And in doing so, in finding out that this pencil is supposedly lucky, he actually ends up passing it around with his friends, but in the process, he realizes that it's slowly shrinking, like it's being used, so of course it's getting shorter. And I think he's like, okay, at this point, we're only going to use it when we absolutely need to.
Right. Yeah. And eventually, in a desperate move to preserve it, he deliberately hides it someplace where he assumes he would never think to look.
Which usually I feel like wouldn't work, because if somebody is hiding something in a place where even they think they wouldn't find it, I feel like it would often be one of the first places they look because it's so obscure that they at least would remember. But yeah, I definitely haven't seen this particular episode too many times, but I can kind of understand where it's coming from. Because I feel like at some point when we were all kids, we all had something that we felt was lucky. I can't think of any specific examples from my childhood, but I'm sure there was something in there. But I do find it commendable that he didn't initially keep it to himself.
Yeah.
Like, even though I don't believe luck is necessarily a real thing.
Me neither.
The fact that he started to think that this pencil was lucky, and then, especially as a kid, was sharing it with other people, that's very commendable.
Yeah. And in an interesting bittersweet twist, even after the pencil mysteriously disappears and things still seem to go well for him, which he's pleasantly surprised by. And he comes to the conclusion, maybe it wasn't luck all along. Maybe I just, put the right work in, or, things just work together or whatever. So, kind of a nice little mini lesson there.
It's like a blink and you'll miss it line that is featured in The Incredibles that I just thought of, where Edna is kind of showing off the different suits to Elastigirl. She's like, what do you think the baby will be doing? Oh, I don't know. But luck favors the prepared.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And then we finally jump. I say finally as if it took a while. We jump to Season 2, Episode 3, starting with Part 1, DW, the Picky Eater. I don't know about you, but for me, this is probably one of the first episodes I ever remember seeing.
I definitely saw it. I think it is one of the first ones I saw, though originally I saw it on the cassette they released it on.
Right. I don't remember if it was a cassette or if I happened to see it when it was airing on TV. But it was also one of the few Arthur books I think I had, because this was one of those episodes that was in book form.
Yeah, I did read the book myself, too.
Cool. So maybe it's because of that I would think this is one of the more well-known episodes, but this is one of those titles that spells out what this episode is about. DW in particular, she has a salad, I think, placed in front of her, but she just refuses to eat the spinach.
Yeah, spinach is like her number one enemy.
And call me crazy, but I think this episode might have been the reason why some kids for a while also did not eat spinach.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if that were the case.
Yeah, because I wouldn't necessarily say that I didn't want to eat it after seeing this episode, but it wasn't one of my go-tos. But like, if it was presented in front of me, I would eat it. Still. The problem with her saying it is that she outright is livid whenever spinach is placed in front of her.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to take that much to set her fuse off, generally.
Yeah, and any time after this established they go grocery shopping, she picks like half the stuff out of the bag depending on what she doesn't like.
Yeah.
And it gets to the point where her parents say that they will not go to a big fancy restaurant unless she eats everything that's given to her.
Yeah, basically tell her she can't eat out again until she behaves herself and eats what she served.
And I can't remember if this was something that actually happened or if this was like an imagination thing where they were at a restaurant. She screams about how much she hates spinach and accidentally catapults some of it onto a waiter's face.
No, that was real.
That was real? Okay.
Yeah.
Because I think he just quits after that, which I don't blame him.
Oh, yeah.
I've never been a waiter myself, but I've seen some wackos in the restaurant that would make somebody quit.
Oh, I'm sure you've seen everything.
Yeah, as a busser, I saw quite a few things, including a fist fight, but that's a story for another time.
Yeah.
Eventually, she does work up to the point where she supposedly proves that she can be at a restaurant and behave. So when they go, she orders some type of pie, like a
pot pie. Yeah.
yeah. And what's funny about this moment is that when the waiter presents it to her, he stops and emphasizes the word spinach as if he knows the whole scenario. So when he says the word spinach, everybody fearfully looks at her, thinking she's about to explode again. And then she's like, "What? I love spinach. Everybody knows that."
Yeah. Yeah. And DW, it's established early on in the story, right, that she'll eat just about no real food, only like junk, peanut butter, jelly, cake, ice cream. Pretty much your typical little kid.
Yeah, of course. And if there is a lesson in this episode, it's probably like, don't bite the hand that feeds you, for one, because
Yeah.
People are going out of their way to make food for you. You should probably eat it. But it also falls under the classic, like, don't knock it till you try it type thing.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. And perhaps this episode probably had one of the Arthur moments that particularly can kind of irritate me if I dwell on it enough, because when DW is suspended from, going to restaurants and, they're looking ahead to celebrating Grandma's birthday, and Grandma suggests just celebrating at the Reed House instead. Well, Arthur kind of, whether he realizes it or not, kind of makes it all about himself. And is like, am I supposed to do everything with DW? He's like totally missing the point of like this whole case that's being made here.
It's one of those doing the right thing for the wrong reasons types of setups. Because, it's cool that he's trying to get her to eat spinach, but he was doing it for more self-centered motives.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like even before that I'm talking about where he's like, Grandma's explaining, if DW can't go out, we can just do it here. And Arthur's all like, no fair! Making it all about himself,
Yeah, it's like the whole reason they were going out is for her birthday.
Yeah. Yeah, but it works out in the end anyway.
Yeah, they all go to the restaurant. DW's eating spinach without making a fuss.
Yeah.
And I think it just ends after she starts eating with Arthur rolling his eyes or something to that effect.
Yeah.
And then part 2 of episode 3 is Buster and the Daredevils. Arthur and Buster see these cool kids that they want to learn some of their skateboarding from, or I don't remember if it was like skateboarding or rollerblading.
Yeah. Skateboarding, yeah. These are somewhat older boys who can do like really cool, possibly even better than Tony Hawk's skateboard tricks. They're like super smooth. They can they're just like superheroes in the minds of Arthur and Buster, and so they kind of want to be able to do what they do.
And at first it looks like they might get in relatively easily, but then these two dudes start saying, oh, yeah, we'll teach you some things. You can join us if you do basically everything we tell you. They do it in the form of dares.
Yeah.
Arthur, in a wise move, backs out before they even really get started. Whereas Buster becomes much more committed and starts doing dare after dare, even when it comes to some dangerous or definitely some wrong things he should not be doing. And I think partway through this episode, they have a parody, which is something they sometimes do for various things, of Beavis and Butthead, which surprises me, because if you know anything about these guys, you know it is not for kids.
No, it is not. And it's not the first Beavis and Butthead parody on the Arthur series. I'm sure we'll get to that episode in the future.
Oh yeah, they will sometimes come back to reference something else that they've talked about before, but it always surprises me when a kid show like this does a parody of something that's not for kids.
Yeah.
But I guess it was mostly used to emphasize how cool and edgy these guys were.
Yeah.
But, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is pretty much more or less the same concept as the SpongeBob story, I'm Your Biggest Fanatic. Like lead character is like smitten with the celebrity of this person, and the celebrity, or in this case, the cool kids, probably annoyed, but, wanting to go along and kind of mess with them, see them get tortured, kind of pretends, I'm going to let you be one of us if you can do this, and just keep stalling it,
And then it comes to a point where Buster is about to do a dare, except it's in front of a crowd, and he doesn't even know what the dare is. In fact, this is where the episode starts.
Yeah, it's where it cold opens.
And it doesn't reveal yet what the dare is until they come back to that scene later. And all they want him to do, supposedly, is, in front of all these people, eat a bug.
Oh. I think it was alive, too, right?
Yeah, it was a live fly or something to that effect. But it was a live bug. And I remember Arthur just looking at him, shaking his head like, don't do it.
Yeah.
And Buster finally wises up and just turns around and says, you eat it. I dare you to eat the bug. It's like, what do you think? We're crazy? Oh, so you're not going to do something despite somebody daring you to?
Right. Yeah, well, thanks for telling me. Guess I won't do it then.
Yeah. And then it cuts to a scene with Brain, or Alan, depending on how you want to refer to him, where they're playing with what is essentially their version of Transformers.
Right, yes.
Now, I, as a kid, saw these and wished they were real. Because it was basically Transformers that would fully transform in like half a second at the push of a button.
Oh, yeah. And one, literally turned into a washing machine, even.
Yeah, I guess the Brain somehow programmed his to literally transform into anything.
Yeah.
So when Buster was like, oh, I dare you to turn into a washing machine. And it does.
Yeah. Yeah, this was long before I honestly knew anything at all about Transformers, let alone what went on the 4D ride at Universal or anything. But yeah, I remember thinking maybe I'm wrong or not. That was a pretty cool toy.
And I think one of them transformed into something similar to an X-Wing from Star Wars, but I could be wrong.
Ooh.
But in the meantime, we move forward to another highly rated pair of episodes, starting with Go to Your Room, DW. Another self-explanatory title, where she is being sent to her room, but she believes it's her sister's fault.
Yeah.
And if this is the episode I'm thinking of,
Yeah.
because I didn't go back and look at all the details for every single one, she is constantly trying to get out of her room, even though she's only supposed to be in her room for like 10 minutes.
Which, for a kid her age, feels like forever, I'm sure.
Oh, for sure. And it could potentially kind of be a reference to the episode length, but I'm just speculating there.
Yeah.
And I think one of the first attempts she makes to get out of her room, she believes time has stopped for a second because the clock is supposedly not moving.
Yeah.
So she goes downstairs and everything is frozen.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Clock Stoppers. It was a live-action Nickelodeon movie.
I can't say I've seen it, no.
Yeah. Basically, they have a watch that supposedly accelerates time, but makes time look frozen when you hit a button. So, yeah. So, in a way, it kind of looks like that sequence.
Well, that may be an instance of making it so the characters are moving so fast that it looks like everything else is completely still. We see it in the X-Men movies, we see it in one of the Sonic movies, we see it in Over the Hedge, even. But yeah, she believes time has stopped. And this is one of those times where somebody's imagination is being used, but you don't see that initial, like, wavy flashback type thing that they often use to show that they're going into someone's imagination. So she starts going around, supposedly interacting with her brother and then the twins across the street.
Yeah.
But as she starts to make fun of them, it's revealed that she's actually still inside her house.
Yeah, and the background quickly changes to show what's really going on. Turns out she's in the kitchen.
Yeah, and her father sends her right back up.
Yeah.
And eventually the 10 minutes pass and she is let out. The one thing that my mom pointed out after watching this episode with her years ago that I honestly have to agree with is if I were DW's parents, I would have reset the timer every time she left her room.
Yeah.
Because at that point, with how many times she tried to walk out of her room, it's like she was barely officially punished at all.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, you come back down here? Okay, so we're going to put it back up to 10 minutes and start the timer over. That's what I would have done.
Yeah, you would have done that?
Yeah, after my mom pointed it out, it's like, yeah, you know what, I kind of agree.
Yeah, well, I, used to watch the reality show Super Nanny when it was on ABC, and the strategy they would use was 1 minute per year of age. So I figure, by her standards, by Super Nanny's standards, she probably served enough time, if not more, but I guess to every parent their own.
It definitely can depend on the family and the situation. I don't know if I'd go by that idea with 1 minute per age myself, but I'm not a parent, so I'm definitely not an expert.
No. Sure.
So maybe if I see it put into practice more, I'd be more open to it, but at face value, I don't know, it just seems like 5 minutes for a 5-year-old may not be the most suitable. It could depend on what they did, too.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I'd do. I'm not recommending anything. It's just kind of a thought, kind of throwaway there.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'd probably still go with what my mom's idea was, where I'd reset the clock every time they walked out of the room, but still. Then we get to Season 2, Episode 4B, Arthur Makes a Movie. And I first thought of the episode of SpongeBob. We draw a lot of comparisons to SpongeBob, if you haven't noticed.
Yeah.
Where SpongeBob and Patrick try to make their own movie in retaliation for the official one using actors instead of the actual people. Specifically Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy.
Yeah.
But in this case, Arthur and his friends are making a movie because they're not allowed to see the actual thing.
Yeah.
I don't remember all the hijinks that would have potentially gone down for this one, but I think the movie they weren't allowed to see was a parody of James Bond or something.
Yep, it was, yeah, for sure. Yeah. And in the cold open, you see the advertising trailer in the movie theater for this coming film. It's got like I think maybe a little bit of martial arts. There's a motorcycle, a little romantic sequence, and they mention at the end of the promo that it's rated PG-13. So, yep, they're definitely too young.
And you mentioning the cold open again, like, I'm surprised we haven't talked about this too much, but a lot of the episodes open with Arthur kind of directly addressing the audience in some capacity, as if he knows that what they're doing is a show.
Right.
He'll often ask a question that leads into the rest of the episode, or he'll let part of a scene play out and then kind of set it up for the audience to understand the background of what's going on. And what's actually kind of interesting is that in a future episode, it's kind of revealed that, yeah, it kind of is a TV show in some capacity, because there's an episode where they meet Matt Damon. Like, it's actually him, voiced by him.
Yeah.
And they were talking about, like, a contest that Matt Damon was a part of, where they all submit their ideas.
Yeah.
Arthur doesn't win, but Matt Damon's like, I figured we could turn your idea into a cool TV show.
Yeah.
And it shows him running down the sidewalk with his dog, which is where the theme song opens.
Huh. Yeah, I've seen that episode, once. I think I'll probably only remember half from it, but
it's a nice little touch. But in terms of this episode and how most of them start, it's like, yeah, I kind of like how he addresses the audience, because it helps the kids watching to become more invested.
Yeah. And so, when after Arthur realizes he's too young, it's rated above his age, that this movie he really wants to see, he and his friends get the idea to kind of make their own version of what they call it, James Hound film. And Muffy provides the camera, and Arthur plays the hero, James. And Buster is like the central villain, and the Brain is James's brainy sidekick. And Francine is, in a strange, arguably character-breaking decision, volunteers herself as the damsel in distress.
That is an interesting move, because given her competitive nature and how athletic and sporty she is, she probably would often prefer to play the hero or some other big character that isn't one being rescued.
Yeah, I figured it would be easier, I think, for me to believe, like, Muffy doing that, but her, yeah, probably because, she has, thinking back to, like, Francine's bad hair day, where she, like, didn't seem to like her outfit or her hair, and she even calls shopping boring at one point in another episode, so, yeah, it seems unlike her, but whatever, it is what it is.
She is one of those characters that one would probably classify as a tomboy, where she's a girl who doesn't do the stereotypical girly things most of the time.
Yeah.
But then we jump to Season 2, Episode 5, and Part 1 is probably another well-known episode, Arthur's Underwear. Arthur witnesses, I think it's Binky, whose pants split.
Yeah, when he bends to pick up some chalk off the floor after acing a math problem.
And this is a trope you'll often see in a show or a film centered around kids, where somebody's pants split or they're afraid that that's going to happen when they're standing in front of everybody else. Of course, SpongeBob had a whole episode dedicated to that idea.
Right.
And of course it happens here. And while Arthur finds it funny at first, he starts worrying that he's going to have the same thing happen.
Yeah. And eventually, in a way, it does. Some might call it karma, but I don't believe in that. But yeah, so now he gets a kind of little bit of a walk in Binky's shoes, you could say. But Binky, refreshingly, is the one who kind of comes to his aid, covers him and escorts him to the kitchen when the incident occurs, which is nice. Even though he was like the victim, everybody was probably laughing at him early on. He's the one who kind of steps in and saves the day, which is refreshing.
And it's also a good story tactic, as long as it's not done too much, where somebody doesn't understand what someone else is going through until they experience it themselves.
Yeah.
And another thing I like about this episode is that, most of the other episodes that I can think of anyway, even a lot of the ones that we talked about, they're kind of one-off stories where it happens and then it's not addressed again.
Yeah.
But in this case, this episode, or at least the plot revolving around it, is referenced in future episodes. Like there's one that I can think of where everybody's trying to see who can tell the scariest story, and Arthur basically recaps his traumatic moment here. And I think it was Muffy who goes, "We've heard this before. It's over. Move on."
Yeah. Yeah. The trauma is for real.
Yeah, so I kind of appreciate when they do little callbacks like that.
Yeah. Yeah. But then we have Francine Frensky, Olympic rider. And Francine develops an interest in learning to ride horseback. Her sister Catherine and has to take her because she needs a ride. She can't drive, of course. And they both end up learning with the same coach. And taking Francine slowly grows bitter over time. After seeing, Catherine is apparently learning better, and there's kind of a romance happening between Catherine and the instructor, and that makes her temporarily just quit altogether.
Which is very understandable, again, especially at that age. And while this isn't quite what this episode is aiming for, I don't think, it's very reminiscent of a lot of plot points and stuff in real life where, like, a younger sibling will often get compared to the older one in some capacity, and occasionally vice versa, where somebody will be like, "Why can't you be like your brother? Why can't you be like your sister?"
Right.
And in this case, she's kind of doing that to herself because, her sister is better at what she's currently passionate about. And I don't quite know how this episode is resolved either, but I like to think it would have the message of some people are naturally better at certain things than others. Like, I like to doodle, but I can't draw anything fancy, and even if I did, it would take me so long to do. But then there's other people who could do complicated art pieces in half an hour.
Oh yeah, I think I've seen some of your work. I think you drew maybe a couple drawings of Sonic the Hedgehog. Am I right?
Yeah, most of the drawings I've done have been of Sonic characters or characters who would look like they'd be in the Sonic world.
Yeah.
But that's really the extent of my ability to draw. But that's more just because I haven't really put the time and practice into it. Because, it's a little side hobby. It's something I do for fun every so often.
Yeah. Yeah, but it ain't nothing.
Yeah. And I've definitely been in scenarios before where I'm kind of jealous of my older brother or sister for one reason or another. So I've definitely been in Francine's shoes. So even if I don't remember too much of this episode, at least from a plot point standpoint, I can definitely get where she's coming from.
Yeah, and I, probably for a while of my growing up, was jealous, at least of my younger brother. I was the oldest of three. Probably just because, I was on the spectrum, and I feel like he was, like, well, kind of the popular kid that people liked. He had the cool friends who had all, like, the cool talents, but, yeah. So, yeah, I've been there myself, I think, but honestly, my brother and I have a good relationship to this day, even though we're not in contact as often since he's out of state, and I feel like I've been able to, kind of make a name for myself and more or less do what I like, and I'm pretty happy with myself today.
Which is very respectable, because a lot of people, whether it be friends or family, once one of them moves away or graduates or whatever the scenario is, like communication will stop, or they'll not be getting along as well as they used to. But like you and myself, I would say we both have good connections with our siblings, even though we don't live near each other anymore.
Yeah.
And that really is just an example of how much we care for each other. Because distance at that point, while it is a factor for not being physically present, it's like we'd still step in and do whatever we can for the other whenever we need to.
Yeah, I still do have my sister at home, but not for much longer, probably because she's getting ready to move in about a few months. But
sure.
But yeah, I'd say, we're all have good relationships with one another, though.
And especially in this day and age, that's very important.
Yeah.
And now we move forward to Season 2, Episode 6, and 6A is Buster Baxter Cat Saver. This is another one of those episodes where I believe it's not a common reoccurrence, but it is kind of mentioned in future episodes as well. As the episode implies, he saves a cat when really what happened is he was under a tree and a cat jumped into his arms.
Yeah, so he didn't really do much of anything except, like, catch him, if that's anything.
And I think he just happened to have fish for some reason, which...
Yeah, ice cream with breaded fish in it.
Which is not something I'd probably ever go for, but, Buster's into the weirder and sometimes grosser stuff, so... shrugging there. But at first, he just says, yeah, I guess I was just in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
But, like, a few instances, I'm sure, in other cartoons where something like this happens, it kind of goes to his head and he starts acting like he's this big name, this popular hero in the city, to the point where he comes up with this series in his mind where now he's just this cat-saving themed superhero.
Yeah, it's kind of a Batman-like thing.
Yeah, very similar, even though Arthur, like, his universe has their own cartoon that is highly based on Batman, and I guess Superman.
Oh, yeah.
The further I think about it.
Yeah. Right.
But in this particular case, he starts playing it up far bigger than he should because, it's getting to his head. He realizes how much attention he's getting from it.
Yeah.
I want to think like he turns it kind of into a business later where he will try to save other people's cats. But I think in this particular episode, when another cat is in a tree, he tries to call it down and it's not working.
Yeah. And was it a fake cat or was it real?
Well, now that you say that, it might have been fake.
Yeah.
Like it was planted there to kind of expose him as, like, not an actual hero. Like, yeah, he coincidentally helped the first cat out, but the fact that he let it go to his head way too much, like, it might have actually been a fake one. like a robot or something to that effect.
Yeah.
So I'll have to actually check out that scene again, because you may be right.
Yeah, but it does kind of end on kind of a high note with a little bit of a here we go again, because Buster saves Arthur and Francine from getting hit by a piano, and then the whole thing kind of starts all over again.
Yeah.
With him imagining himself as the star of this piano dueling superhero type, and they have like Mr. Ratburn kind of as his own version of the Columbia Pictures mascot, and it's this whole all-out thing.
Ending with one of those, oh, here we go again type of scenarios.
Yeah.
Always a classic trope to end on.
Yeah. And then that's followed by Play It Again DW, which I think is probably a Casablanca reference for the older viewers. But anyway, it centers around DW's obsession with a silly little kid song titled Crazy Bus. And I've made a joke about this, like, with you and a mutual friend of ours once in public, of like, like Crazy Bus, like, on the digital streams chart, whatever. But anyway, so Arthur is naturally really irritated. His patience runs thin and very fast. And then, when the parents are planning to provide some music for like a high school reunion they're going to go to or something, the CD that the song is on, the Crazy Bus song, mysteriously disappears, and naturally DW freaks out.
Yeah, it's another episode where she loses something and blames her brother for it.
Yeah. Like the Snowball episode. If you're thinking about that, yeah.
It's exactly what was coming to mind.
Yeah.
And this episode kind of pays a nod to how when a song explodes in popularity, and some people will love it, and other people are just so frustrated whenever they hear it.
Yeah.
And I feel like regardless of how old somebody is nowadays, they've probably lived through at least one phase where there was just a song that was absolutely everywhere.
Yeah.
For some people, it might have been Let It Go from Frozen.
Yeah.
For others, it might have been Gangnam Style by Psy. For others, it might have been the Harlem Shake. Or, trying to think of, there was this really big song that came out after that.
Yeah.
Despacito.
Yeah. I'll admit, on occasion recently, I have put on Gangnam Style, like on one or two occasions recently. I do have a bit of a soft spot for it to this day, honestly.
You know, I do too. I don't play it all the time, but it's one of those really popular songs that I'll still come back to every once in a while.
Yeah.
And I'm sure if you were around when Encanto came out, you probably heard We Don't Talk About Bruno all the time.
Well, at least I heard it being talked about, if nothing else.
Oh yeah, it was talked about, people were referencing it, singing it,
Yeah.
It was performed at award shows, it was ridiculous.
Yeah, and apparently Lin-Manuel Miranda has been nominated for a Disney Legend Award this year.
Honestly, good for him. Because even if I have a sour spot for that song because of how popular it was and it kind of got on my nerves after a while, I understand that he is a good songwriter.
Yeah.
He's worked on a lot of things, like Encanto's, of course, one.
Moana, Star Wars.
Of course, he did Hamilton.
Yeah.
He worked on
Mary Poppins Returns.
Yep, the live-action Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
So he's been around and he has talent. So honestly, I applaud him.
Yeah. And then there's some people I think are like on both sides of the coin where like, yeah, this song was overplayed, but it's still good in its own way.
Yeah, I honestly would argue that I'm one of those people where I found that a lot of times if something explodes in popularity, whether it be like Let It Go or We Don't Talk About Bruno, it kind of turns me away from it for a while. But then when a lot of that popularity and hype has finally died down, I'll finally check it out and be like, you know what? It's actually not that bad.
And it helps that there was a recent production of Frozen some of our castmates were in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and a very well put on production. And I still have the program from it because apparently there's a QR code, I think, to a video link if it ever comes out. Anyway, that was such a good production. Yeah. Honestly, even by then I'd forgotten the hype surrounding that song, Let It Go, and honestly, it didn't really bother me at all. I didn't really think of it.
Well, I think for Frozen in particular, I was definitely confused, because I remember before this film came out, there wasn't a ton of advertising for it. But then when the movie did come out, suddenly everybody was talking about it. So I was just sitting there like, wait, what happened?
Yeah, but this is one of those... This is a story kind of like similar in a way to the Snowball story and the episode where Pal gets sick as a dog, where one of the siblings suspects the other, probably based on, I don't know if it's true or not, based on their past track records, like DW always complained about Pal, and so Arthur, probably for that reason, suspected DW did something to him. In this case, though she doesn't cite a specific reason for her suspicion of him in this story, Arthur is known to have a short temper pretty often with DW, so I'm not too surprised that she suspected him, even if there were no grounds.
Right, and what ends up happening, I believe, is that her parents accidentally grabbed it and ended up playing it at their reunion.
Yeah. Right, yeah. Mistaking it for something else or something.
Which the kids caught on to after the CD they grabbed was the one they were going to use. And I gotta think that Crazy Bus was at least loosely based on the Magic School Bus. But I could easily be wrong.
Yeah, that kind of is possible, I think, the Magic School Bus. I feel like the dream sequence where Arthur has his waking nightmare of, everybody on the Crazy Bus, it did have that sort of animation to it from the exterior, so that is a possibility.
And it even goes as far as them going to, a live version of Crazy Bus. And were there any kid shows when you were growing up that you went to see a live version of?
I mean, other than perhaps, there was the Bear in the Big Blue House live show at Disney's, what was then called the MGM Park.
Mm-hmm.
That was maybe about it. I mean, I think, there were other kid shows that I was watching at the time, or around that time, like The Big Comfy Couch and The Puzzle Place, which I think had their own live touring shows, but I never saw those. But I saw the TV shows.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly when it was, but I know at least my mom and I at one point went to a live version of Blue's Clues.
Oh.
I even had my own physical version of The Notebook. I don't remember what ended up happening to it, but it's a very fuzzy memory, but I do remember going.
Yeah, I do remember one time being really young, my older cousin had The Notebook. She'd play with us, kind of do like they would do on the show, look out for the clues and stuff.
Yep. But chances are we've all been through some moment where a song got really popular and we either loved it or despised it for a while or somewhere in between.
Yeah, I've probably been on both sides, there was one that got a lot of airplay that I was hooked on, even Lord's Royals that was a big one for me for a while. Okay. And there were other ones that were probably so popular but never clicked with me. So I guess I've been on, you could say, both sides.
Oh, yeah. And even if a song isn't popular, I have been guilty of playing a song a bunch of times in a short time frame.
Yeah.
Just because of how much I really enjoyed it.
Oh, yeah. Me too.
Like a prime example is one of my favorite songs now that came out about a year and a half ago called Run It by Jelly Roll. And it was released in promotion with the third Sonic film, which probably helps. But I just really enjoyed the song. I play it often on, like when I'm driving around, it'll be in a playlist. When I'm sitting at home trying to pass the time, that song will often be on there. So I definitely understand why some people would play a song a bunch of times.
Oh no, that's kind of the goal, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, if you release a song, you hope people listen to it a lot.
Yeah.
And there are some that I do listen to quite a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we have Arthur's TV Free Week, which follows a sort of citywide initiative to basically strive to go a full week without television of any kind.
You know, it might have actually been because of this episode, but I remember my family trying to do something very similar.
Yeah.
But Buster is, of course, horrified because he loves watching TV. And after he finds out that it means there's over 10,000 minutes where he would not be watching TV, he freaks out.
Yeah. Suddenly he's got the time to do math. Because if he were permitted to watch TV, he would watch as much of it probably as he could. There's even a whole episode, I'm sure we'll get to, he totally slacks off when he should be doing an assignment for homework. And he just spends the whole time watching TV or whatever.
And once again, reminiscent of SpongeBob, there's that episode where he procrastinates an assignment, not necessarily by watching TV, but he just finds any possible excuse not to do the assignment.
Yeah.
But yeah, I honestly think every once in a while, going the whole week without watching something on TV can be good, because then you can find other things you might be interested in that you wouldn't have found otherwise.
Yeah, I probably need to get a little out more than I do. I haven't gone a whole week without television in probably years and years and years. And we all are on it constantly. We're streaming now, and even when on vacation, my dad and I were, or at least I was, like on the smart TV in the apartment, playing stuff. But yeah, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to maybe cut back on it a little bit once in a while.
Sure. And I know that when, like, summer rolls around, for example, I'm often out more anyways, so that should definitely help me, I would think.
Yeah, but Buster, he has a tougher time than anybody, and he's sticking to it, and there are probably multiple points that he almost caves, but somehow he's able to stick it out. He's got Arthur's help, and even Arthur struggles with it, and even Francine and her dad kind of work around it more or less by listening to sports on the radio instead of playing TV. But it's pretty challenging for several of the characters, like the Brain, Mr. Ratburn. They struggle, but
sure.
Somehow everybody sticks it out.
And I honestly think the radio can be a good replacement, because then, like, for example, I found that whenever I'm listening to music, I'll usually try to picture a scenario in my head that goes with that song. So, like, listening to the radio, instead of seeing what's being displayed in front of you, you can kind of picture it as it's being described or when people are talking about it.
Yeah, sometimes, I kind of do a similar thing when I play music, like certain songs. I think about what a halftime performance of this certain song would look like, or what I would want my music video, if I were the singer and this was my song, would look like. I'm pretty imaginative in that way.
Yeah, I haven't really gone that angle before.
Yeah.
Usually, the things I picture are like maybe I'm floating through space, or maybe I'm in this epic battle, or something to that effect. But picturing like a music video type thing, that's actually really clever.
Yeah.
I'll have to start doing that myself.
Yeah. My fantasies probably borrow a lot from things I've seen before, but yeah. But with a little of my own touch anyway.
Well, I mean, that's often what happens with artistic expression, is that there's an inspiration pulled from somewhere, and then the person getting that inspiration will put their own twist to it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And then Night Fright follows Binky dealing with his, like, fear, maybe not necessarily of the dark, but his coping with nightmares by having a nightlight, and his fear of others finding out about it and ridiculing him. And after the cold open, well, I'll talk about the cold open first, because it's pretty fun, because they have two talking monsters in Arthur's room going at each other, kind of arguing, having a little fight. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, I love when they get really creative with things like that.
Yeah.
This is definitely one of those episodes that further explores the idea that Binky's tough on the outside, but he's just like everybody else when no one else is around, or at least that's how he tries to see it himself. And I mean, a lot of people, even adults, will have a nightlight, or even if they don't have a light necessarily, they'll have something that helps them sleep. Like for me, it's the white noise from something like a fan.
Oh yeah, I have a white noise machine that I always use.
Yeah, I definitely used to, and it was a really good one, because it had different sounds that I could play if I wanted. But after a while, it kind of fizzled out and started turning off and on at random. But yeah, I have been in this scenario before. I don't know if I was necessarily ever scared of other people finding out.
Yeah.
But I think he gets even further scared when Arthur is there overnight for some reason. I forget exactly what he's doing there.
Yeah, I think his parents were supposed to pick him up to take him to like a relative's, but they had car trouble, and so he had to stay with the Barnes for the night.
Oh, okay. So I guess he's there for that reason. So when he finds out about the nightlight, Binky feels like he has to find some way to make absolutely certain that this news doesn't get out.
And so he like goes super crazy, like pampering him, like sharpening Arthur's pencil, like buying him lunch and things, desperately trying to keep his secret.
Yeah, the lengths that some people will go to make sure something doesn't get spread around or publicly known is insane, especially for him being in third grade.
Yeah. And it probably helps the anxiety that he actually had to repeat the third grade, as he mentions in one other story. So he's probably older than the rest of the class.
Yeah, he's definitely among the older, I'm pretty sure, and the brain also, like, he didn't repeat the third grade, but he is a year behind where he would normally be. But that's in another episode. I even think Binky goes as far as finding some way to bribe him. I forget exactly what he does to attempt that, but...
Yeah, I'm not sure. But I do remember, like, toward the end, he's, like, listing off stuff that he did for him. Like, after the secret is out and he's relieved, and he's like, hey, you owe me for all these things, whatever. Probably that came up somewhere on the list.
Probably, yeah. And there are multiple episodes of Arthur out there where somebody is afraid of other people finding out about a certain thing about them.
Yeah.
But then when it inevitably gets revealed to their friends or whoever, they find out that, yeah, these people are fine with it. They're not going to make fun of them for it. Like, there's a character, I can't remember if it's like Jenna or Jetta or however you pronounce it.
Jenna.
But she goes to a slumber party with a lot of her female friends and is worried about them finding out that she sometimes wet the bed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But then when that's discovered and the measures she takes to keep that from happening, her friends are like, yeah, my cousin has those. Like, this guy's in the 6th grade and he still uses them.
Yeah.
So who cares?
Yeah. And this Night Fright episode has probably one of the coolest fantasies right after the cold open. Because it's fresh on my mind probably because I recently watched The Sound of Music, both the musical and the movie for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
They have that, like, they have a Sound of Music parody with, like, the Austrian hills, like Maria spinning around. Instead, it's Binky on a hilltop of hamburgers. Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
I don't know. Did you go see the Sound of Music production that was recently in town?
I did not go to see that one, no, but I have been familiar with the story for a while.
Yeah.
Like, I know that, I don't know if this still happens, but at least for a while around Christmas time, it would air on TV and my family would always watch it.
Yeah, well, I don't know if anybody's watching hardly any live TV anymore, so maybe they stopped. I didn't see it promoted last season, so...
Yeah, I'll have to keep a close eye out the next time I actually have personal access to different channels, but it's still a familiar story to me, and I have seen it performed live before, just not when it was here recently.
Yeah. Well, it is coming to town the next RBTL season.
Okay, I'll have to keep an eye out for that, because I think the last RBTL production I saw was Phantom of the Opera with my parents years ago.
Oh.
So I haven't really been to too many RBTL productions since then.
Right.
But for now, we jump forward to episode 8A, Arthur versus the Piano. Now, this is an episode where Arthur gets stage fright, and it's one of those episodes that explores the fact that he can play the piano. But during a rehearsal, he freaks out, and then he's just worried that the same thing will happen again if he ever performs for another audience again. So when it comes to the recital, he's basically thinking if he makes even one mistake, the whole performance is ruined.
Yeah. Yeah, it's classic little kid anxiety, you know. His whole fear is, if he messes one thing up in front of all of these people, it's going to be a disaster.
Yeah, I will admit, in some capacity, I am kind of a perfectionist when it comes to my performances. Like, if I even, slightly misquote one of my lines, I'll feel bad after I come off stage, or if I forget some of the lyrics to a song. Like, when we did Willy Wonka, not to go on a side tangent too much.
Oh, no, go ahead.
But whenever we did the opening of the second act, and your character introduced mine and I come out of the gate, I sing for a moment, but half the time I just could not remember what some of the following lyrics were.
Yeah, it's a lot of words.
Oh, it is, and some of them start off very similarly to each other. So I would sometimes be looking at my castmates freaked out because all of a sudden there's nobody singing because I'm the only one who is at the moment. So it's like, what do I do? What do I do? How do I get back on track? I've definitely gotten better at just like not beating myself up whenever I do something wrong. But I still have what I like to call pre-show jitters. And what I mean is, like, we rehearse for at least a couple of months whenever we start rehearsals leading up to the actual show. But the first night we have, whenever we're performing in front of a live audience, I have what I'll call pre-show jitters, where I'm thinking, okay, now we have actual people, and if one of us makes a mistake, we can't go back and fix it. We just have to keep moving forward, and we may even have to improvise at some moments, which we have done before. Like when we did Wizard of Oz, the girl playing Dorothy, she could not find Toto off stage, so a few of us were just kind of standing there awkwardly, but she kept it going. She was improvising lines to pass the time, and it ultimately worked out. And the same thing goes for when we did Beauty and the Beast a couple of years ago, where Belle was taking a little bit longer to come on stage than expected. So Lumiere, Cogsworth, and me as the Beast, we were extending our conversation where I was expressing how nervous I was to encounter Belle in her new dress. So the basic point is, stage fright is very understandable as a kid or even as an adult. The real challenge is just pushing through and just doing your doing your best. My apologies. And if a mistake is made, it's like, as they say, the show must go on, and as our music director often says, just go with the flow.
Yeah. And there's a healthy kind of fright, too, I think. A healthy kind of nerves. I remember, I'm training now for the music ministry at my church. The music and creative arts pastor, one time years ago, shared a story of something a director once told him. If you ever have no nerves on stage, then something really is wrong.
Yeah, well, I've definitely talked to my director, or I should say our director, or I've been in the room with him when he's talking to other people, and he has often said, like, are you nervous? And one of us will say yes, and then he'll respond with something like, well, good, because if you weren't, I'd be worried.
Yeah. And I've been there myself, and I'm probably over-perfectionist and super over-analytical sort of way. Or hopefully I'm less now, but I mean, when I started with Artists Unlimited and was doing my first recital, I was trying super, super hard to perfectly recreate what I was hearing on the CD they gave us.
Mm-hmm.
Like every little beat, every little intonation, I was trying to match it like 100% or more. And that probably caused me some unnecessary stress that maybe a lot of people didn't pick up on, but I probably mentally exhausted myself by the time I got on stage.
Yeah, I definitely have done the exact same thing before. I definitely get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Because especially if I'm trying to, like, say we're doing a musical based on a pre-existing material, like with Shrek.
Yeah.
If Donkey said a line a certain way in the film, I try to say it as close to the exact same way as I can.
Yeah.
Like, even when he laughs in response to the idea that Fiona thinks Shrek is her true love, I tried to laugh the exact same way he did. So I definitely understand what you mean.
Yeah. But then there is probably one of the most tense stories in the series, titled The Big Blow Up, where Francine and the Brain have an ongoing feud that starts with a very lively disagreement about a play being out of bounds or something in a soccer practice, and this gradually affects Others around them, like Arthur and Buster, it pretty much kind of affects the whole team. And Arthur and Buster are understandably concerned because they have a match coming up against a huge rival, and they fear this is probably going to interfere with it, mess it up. And so, well, they come up with this clever idea to create some fake apology notes. So yeah, they're lying, but I can understand they're desperate, though.
This is a real scenario, though, where morale is a big factor a lot of the times when it comes to teams or groups doing something together, where if one or two people are in a bad mood, it can affect the people around them and thus affect how they all perform in the end. So when they start having this dispute, of course that could affect how the whole team ends up doing in this match, especially when the nerves and their personal stakes are high going up against a big rival like this.
Yeah.
So it's a big teamwork-themed episode for sure. And I know there was at least one episode, it might have actually been this one, where they do this particular move together that helps them get past the defense to score a goal, which helped them get along once they figured out how to properly execute it and not argue with each other. I mean, I know I kind of sound like a broken record half the time with talking about some of these episodes, but this is a good episode centered around how important working together is.
Yeah. And there's a little more or less B-plot, too, with DW looking for Arthur's help writing a letter to Santa Claus. You know, from all the flack or whatever criticism that DW gets, she does make a valid point. Arthur says, "You want to write to him in May?" And she says, "You know how much mail he gets in December?" Which, yeah. So even once in a while, she's right about things.
Sure. Then we get to Season 2, Episode 9A, simply called Lost.
Yeah.
And this is not a parody on the show of the same name.
Yeah, this is not to be confused with the J.J. Abrams show. This was even before that time. Yep. And in this case, the title is styled with an exclamation point.
And the concept is that eventually Arthur falls asleep while riding the bus.
Yeah.
And again, not to compare too much to SpongeBob, but it's kind of like when they stay on the bus too long and wind up in a mysterious, kind of weird part of the town, part of the city. So now he has to try and find his way home. And of course, he's scared, he's nervous. And, you know, I don't know if I've ever necessarily stayed on a bus for too long, but I remember a time when I was young, my family was going into a hotel.
Yeah.
Somehow I got separated from them and wound up walking into the hotel next door.
Right.
And none of my family was around, so I was terrified.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go. I just found the nearest adult and said, "Hey, I don't know where I am. I don't know where my family is. Can you please help me?"
Yeah.
So I imagine the feelings I had then are very similar to what Arthur is feeling here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've made the mistake of kind of staying on the school bus for too long on one occasion, but that wasn't really about it.
Yeah, I think there were one or two times where I got off the bus slightly too early, but that's just because I had a friend being dropped off who was down the street from where I lived. But, yeah, getting lost can be terrifying, and people don't really understand how that feels unless they go through it themselves, which,
Right.
God forbid that happens.
Right.
And then 9B is the short, quick summer. And I'm sure we've all had times where we were on summer vacation or some other break from school. We were so looking forward to the time away from school where we could just feel free and do various things that we couldn't do while in school. But then all of a sudden, in the blink of an eye, it's suddenly over, and we look back thinking, what happened? Where did all of our free time go?
Right, yeah. And in this case, Arthur is feeling like he missed out on a lot, or didn't have as much fun as his friends did. But then when he sees his to-do list of activity goals, he realizes he accomplished what he wanted to, and it turned out to be a pretty good summer.
Yeah, and as the IMDb description says, as Arthur learns, you don't have to go far from home to have a great summer.
Yeah.
It's like, a lot of people in the summer, they might go to further away places like family or Disney or something to that effect. But a lot of people, they just stay home and find some local spots, even in their backyard, to do some fun, crazy things.
Yeah.
It's like you just gotta be a little creative.
Oh yeah, and you can just be a little simple. I recently traveled again to Philadelphia, and it wasn't probably the most glamorous trip, but we had some pretty good fun exploring different things, and I don't know if you've been there. I don't think you have, but it is pretty good though.
All right, yeah, well, take your word for it. And then what's probably going to be our final episode for the evening. Part 1 is DW goes to Washington. And what they mean is Washington, D.C., by the way.
Right.
So her family goes there, and her being a 4-year-old in a place that is filled with history, she is bored out of her mind. And even when she is excited for a moment, she says that, oh, well, at least I get to see the Statue of Liberty, only to realize that she's in the wrong city for that.
Yeah.
And eventually, they actually get to go inside the White House and kind of get a tour of the place. But like how I was with the hotel that I mentioned, she gets separated from her family and gets lost in the White House.
Although she does it on purpose, I think, though. Kind of goes her own way.
Oh, that's true. She kind of does go off on her own path just so she can find something exciting to do. But then a nice man comes by and they kind of bond over their love of horses, I believe. And when he brings her back to where the family is, he's like, hey, come have some food with me. And then it's revealed around that time that the person that she's been talking to this entire time is the President of the United States.
Yeah, and I think he had an accent that was supposed to be based on Bill Clinton, whom at the time this aired was our president.
Yeah, because this was in the late 90s when this premiered, and I believe, I think Clinton was the president at the time.
Yeah.
Now, Arthur, of course, when he realizes that that's the president, he doesn't necessarily hyperventilate, but he's like, wait a minute, that's the president.
Yeah.
And then, I've been to Washington, D.C. before. I don't think I've ever actually been in the White House.
No, I've just been in the airport. That's really all I've been.
Okay. If you ever have an opportunity and the weather's nice, I'd definitely say, toward D.C. a bit, because there's a lot of cool things you can look at. Now, I don't know if I necessarily want to be in the White House right now, because we're living in a time where there's a lot of political tension. Some of it justified, some of it not. But I know that, not to get too political, but I feel like if I went anywhere near the heavy, like politically heavy places right now, I could get caught up in something ugly. But generally speaking, I would recommend a tour of DC at some point.
Yeah. I'd probably be okay with the White House and even being with our current president, although I don't really trust him that much, to be honest, but I don't know if I do, but, you know, I'd be okay. I'd be, you know, nice, and if he wanted to give me, hypothetically, a medal or something, I'd probably take it. But, yeah, it is a pretty difficult time to kind of say less right now.
For sure. Like, we try to stay away from politically charged or controversial topics if we can, but, like, at least you know our, like, you, the viewing audience, know our viewpoints on being at the White House right now.
Right.
Anyway, final episode of tonight is season 2, episode 10B, Arthur's Mystery Envelope. And as the episode implies, Arthur receives one specifically from his principal. And because it's from him, he worries that it's something bad in regards to him, like something that his parents would open up, look at, and then it just would turn into Arthur's worst nightmare.
Yeah.
Like, he starts picturing these worst case scenarios, like what could possibly be in this envelope that the principal of all people would want to give to my parents. He eventually does have the envelope given to her, and it's revealed that it wasn't anything bad at all. Like, from what I understand, it turns out that his mom is just a really good handler of taxes, or whatever you would call that.
Yeah, she's the principal's accountant.
Oh, she is an accountant. Okay, I wasn't sure if that was an official title. But he gives her this envelope that turns out to have his tax documents in it that she was going to help with. But, of course, Arthur didn't know that, and the scenario set up made it look like, oh, he's thinking he could be in major trouble, even though he's not sure of what he could have possibly done.
Yeah, for kids like Arthur, the principal is to them as police are generally to us. You know, the people you don't want to have to cross paths with, probably, for anything.
Yeah, a lot of times in my younger years of school especially, if somebody was told, go to the principal's office, that felt like a death sentence.
Right. The end of your life.
And it would get to the point where somebody would probably say, oh, you're in trouble.
Yeah, and you hear that in kids' shows, too.
Oh, absolutely. All the time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and even to a degree, DW tries to kind of rat Arthur out in this one.
Oh, yeah, she's the bratty younger sister. She wants to see her brother suffer, quote unquote.
Yeah. Yeah, but, of course, it turns out, you know, it doesn't really have anything to do with him as much as it has to do with the principal and his finances, so yeah. There's a relief at the end.
Yeah, just a good example of fear of the unknown.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, well, that covers the first 10, probably the whole first half of Season 2. But we will pick it up in progress next time, and until then, stream us on YouTube and YouTube Music, offer your questions, comments, anything, and keep the conversation going.
Yeah, let us know what your favorite Arthur episodes are, whether it's one that we've talked about yet or not. Did you read the books growing up? Are there other kid shows that you either have watched or still watch even? Yeah, just let us know. And if there's other films or TV shows you want us to talk about in the future, that's another thing you can talk to us about, and it could be featured in a future episode.
Until next time, everyone take care.
So long, everyone.